Allegiance is historical fiction, but it is intended to have some relevance to the current situation. So it's set during World War II. It's set in part in Philadelphia, in part in Washington in the Supreme Court, and also in part in the detention camps to which Japanese Americans were sent during World War II. And the detention of the Japanese Americans is one of the main focuses of the book. So my narrator, my protagonist, is a guy from Philadelphia who, after the Pearl Harbor attack, wants to join up and serve in the military. He can't do that, but then he gets another opportunity, he thinks, to serve his country, working first for the Supreme Court and then for the Department of Justice. He's assigned to work on these Japanese American internment cases, and he starts having doubts about what the government is doing. He also uncovers a mysterious conspiracy. There's a murder. That's the less fact-based part of the book. But a lot of it is very historically accurate, and part of the aim is to teach people about this episode in our history. Well, what happened was my editor wanted a novel set in the Supreme Court, and I thought it would be difficult to do that in the present day because I didn't want people thinking I was revealing secrets that I'd learned during my clerkship. And my wife came up with the idea of setting in the past. I looked for a historical era that had parallels to what was going on when I started this book, which was actually 2007, 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And what I was thinking about then was the U.S. response to September 11th, and in particular Guantanamo detentions, because I had just been asked to serve as a constitutional law consultant on a Guantanamo case. So if you look at Pearl Harbor, it's a very strong parallel to September 11th. It's this shocking attack on American soil, striking us in a way we didn't really think was possible. And then you've got the same kind of reaction. You've got a little bit of hysteria. You've got suspicion of people who seem different. And you've got various measures the government takes in response in the name of national security. And the question is, are these justified? Are these wise? Are these the right thing to do? There is a pattern historically that happens with these surprising attacks or these moments of national fear and insecurity, which is we get frightened. We want the government to do something. We want the government to get the bad guys. But when it's difficult to get the bad guys, instead of finding people who are dangerous, the government will often find people who are different. And especially if they look in some way or they resemble in some way the enemy, then we can turn on them instead. And we start thinking of them as not real Americans. In the World War II cases, these were real Americans, or just people we don't have to care about. You see some of that in the aftermath of September 11th, and we decide that maybe they're guilty, maybe they're not. Whatever we do to them in the name of national security, though, is justified if it might make us safer.